everybody, this is Music Around the Bay. My name is Allie Sealey and this is Rob Dehlinger. We are going to talk a little bit about his CD and the band, Alpha Rhythm Kings, some of their accomplishments, and a little bit of his history and just things that he's done. He is a Pittsburgh native, so it's pretty spectacular, all the things that he has done, especially being in the Pittsburgh High marching band and also leading it, which is kind of cool. So.
I'm a runaway jumper in the night. I think I'm gonna feel that heat. Think I might cry. We can't keep it all bottled inside. I'm a runaway jumper in the night.
I'd love to know more about your band. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The band is called the Alpha Rhythm Kings, and we play swing and jump blues from the 1940s and 50s and vintage lounge music. I'm the lead singer and trumpet player, and then it's a sextet, sometimes a septet, depending. And we do a lot of swing dances around the Bay Area, also Southern California, and we travel all around.
That is so great. What is your background with music?
Well, I came up learning music in school, so middle school, and learned the trumpet. In fact, I didn't even know what the trumpet was. Somebody said, pick the trumpet, it only has 3 buttons. And I said, okay, I wish I could remember that kid so I could send him a thank you note. But so since then, I've been playing the trumpet since I was about 11, and then really got interested in jazz as time went on. So I did the classical thing. I played in youth orchestras in the Bay Area. I played in the Oakland Youth Orchestra and some other groups, but I really just went into the jazz and popular music direction. And so then I went off to school at the New England Conservatory in Boston, studied jazz performance, and then wound up moving back to California, and I've been playing a lot of different types of music. I've done mariachi, I've done punk rock, I've done everything.
Nice.
Jazz, yeah, and kind of eventually fell into doing this swing type of music, and I was in a band called Stompy Jones for many years, and we played all over the world doing 150, 200 shows a year, and that's where I really got into this kind of music. And eventually I would be singing a lot of background vocals, and also I do jingles and stuff at home, and eventually I just started feeling like it would be a good thing for me to step up and be in the front and do sort of like a Louis Prima thing where he would sing and play trumpet. So that's where I started this new band.
Correct. And what kind of songs are you playing? Originals or covers? Both?
Both. We're doing mostly covers right now. The band is pretty much brand new. We did our first gig in August of last year. So we haven't even been together a year, but we've done a lot of cool things. We are talking to Disneyland. We're probably going to wind up, well, definitely going to wind up performing there. But hopefully sometime this year, and we've played at some cool events and things like that, and so we've been really busy. So I haven't developed that many originals yet, but we do have a couple, and we will do more originals. But we do stuff by Louis Prima, Louis Armstrong. There's a guy named Roy Milton. A lot of people don't know. Chet Baker, I do a couple, and a guy named Roy Eldridge. A lot of singing trumpet players I've dug up. There's not that many over the years. But
it seems a little challenging because you're using your mouth here on your instrument, and then you're going to have to break away and sing.
Right.
So how can you, how does that work?
I never even thought about it because I'm so used to playing and then jumping on the mic for background vocals over the last 10, 11, 12 years. So for me, it wasn't that much of a stretch to just sing and then play trumpet. But yeah, recently at shows, some people have come up to me and said, how do you do that? You must have to use a lot of air to do that. And I said, yeah, I guess I have a lot of air.
Well, I was also thinking just in the sense of timing.
It is difficult.
Because you are with a band, you're in a setting where timing is everything. Everybody needs to be together. And then you're playing this instrument. And you're like having to sing with it.
That's a really good point. Yeah, so like when I'm doing the arrangements, because even though we do covers, I do the arrangements for everything. I take that into account.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of times if I'm writing out, we plan out most of our stuff, so we don't, some of the songs are a little bit more improvised, but I would say 75% of our material is mapped out, so the sax player plays his solo at the same time, every time. So I plan it out that, you know, either my trumpet solo happens and then I have a break, or I just, you know, like if I'm writing background parts, I will write them in such a way that I have at least, you know, a few beats to grab my trumpet and put it to my mouth. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
So you've had to learn a lot. Have you had any challenges along the way with the band, or
Yeah.
just kind of smooth sailing?
Well, we've been very fortunate. A lot of things have been happening quickly. We have a long way to go still, but yes, I mean, for one thing, when you are not a teenager starting a rock band, there's an additional challenge to getting people together. Because when you're a kid and you're in school, you know, everybody just wants to get together and jam. And as you know, when you get more into the professional world and everything, you know, rehearsal, how much does it pay? You know, so that was a challenge, getting everybody together. But I know a lot of great musicians, or everybody's schedule. You know, because when you're first starting as a band, you don't have, you know, 5 gigs a week. So to convince people to commit to do your band, and so it's more those kind of challenges than musical challenges. That and so I'm, you know, right now I'm managing the band myself. So eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to get a manager and a booking agent and all that. So if anybody listening,
Yeah, he's in the business. He's looking for a new
publicist, yeah.
band. There you go.
Yeah.
So how often are you guys performing outside of just playing a gig? Are you guys rehearsing every week, or is this something you do kind of by? Does it take less time to rehearse?
Yeah,
over time?
we're playing enough that we don't need to rehearse a lot, and I have really good musicians. But we're working. If you average it out right now, I'd say about once a week. But like for example, we played Tuesday in San Francisco, and then we were in Friday through Sunday in Los Angeles, and we just drove back yesterday.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, or no, Monday. We drove back Monday.
Is there certain venues that you play when you travel that you are just always used to or accustomed to?
Yeah, so we build up connections. So we just did we did a private gig in Beverly Hills in December. That was our first LA trip with this band.
It's pretty fancy.
It was, so that's what I say. We've been lucking out, you know.
I've been there, and I was like, I think I don't belong here.
We were at the Greystone Mansion, and a friend of mine had hooked me up with that. So that was a really cool way to do our first LA gig. And then our first official public LA performance was this past Friday. And that was at a place called Rusty's Rhythm Club, and that is in Playa del Rey in LA. And she runs this swing dance, and they have every first Friday they bring a band in. And so we did that, and we'll be back because everybody loved it. So we had a good time.
That's great.
Yeah.
What's your highlight for playing so far? What gig or venue was it? What's the one that just sticks out the most?
Yeah, well, for this band, because I've done a lot of different things, you know, and as you know, you have too. But for this band, which just started, probably the most exciting thing for me was when we got to play for the Recording Academy, which does the Grammys, for their San Francisco celebration for the people that were nominated. So they, you know, it was like Michael Tilson Thomas from the Symphony was nominated, and some guys from Metallica, and all these people were nominated. And then they also were honoring like people from the Meters, and they were there. And so I had, I'm a member of the Academy, a voting member, so I had let them know that I had a new band, and if they needed music for any live things, you know, they could keep us in mind. And my phone, I was out at lunch with my kids, and my phone rang, and it was a Los Angeles number, and I thought, well, maybe it's just a telemarketer. I'm not going to answer this. So my daughter says, pick it up. You never know. So I picked it up, and it was the Recording Academy, and they said, yeah, we looked at your stuff, and we said, let's get this guy. I said, cool. So that was exciting for me because it's sort of validating to have a new band, make a recording, make a video, and then to have, you know, the Academy that is, their job is to recognize good music and good recordings, more so the recordings, and to think that they heard my recording and said, yeah, let's hire this guy to play at our event was really, really cool and fantastic. Negrito also was there performing, and he won a Grammy last year. So it was kind of good company to be in. It was him and us were the entertainers. So it was really, that was probably my highlight so far.
That's pretty honorable.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
So that was great.
Have you ever been in a band, like in the band, like at school? Were you ever in the band?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like the marching band? What was it like?
Oh yeah. I've marched in the marching band and played in the jazz band and played in the concert band and the orchestra and private lessons and all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you have an extensive. Where was that at?
So I grew up here actually in Pittsburgh, born in New York, but we moved out to the Bay Area when I was young. And so I went through the public school system in Pittsburgh, and then at Hillview Junior High was where I learned to play the trumpet. And my band director was Bruce McKay, who still teaches middle school, but he is in Eureka now.
Okay.
And he's a great guy, great teacher. And so I was going to the Eureka Music Festival every year, and his band would play. And when they found out that I used to be his student, the festival organization hired me to go to his school and do a special clinic with his students, and then for me to come and sit in with his band at their concert. So it was kind of like full circle.
Cool.
My band director, getting
Wow.
to see him again. So then, and then I went to Pittsburgh High School. Then I even went to LMC for a couple of years before I went to Boston. So that's where I got my training. I was very lucky at that time, and we still have good music in Pittsburgh, but I had the best possible music teachers you could ask for in the public school system, all throughout middle school, high school, community college, and then into the conservatory.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it really worked out for me.
So you mentioned Pittsburgh High, and everybody knows Pittsburgh High has an amazing band. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh boy, can I tell you a lot about that. I went to Pittsburgh High School for 4 years, played in the marching band. The current version of the marching band, the way they do it, was developed under the director that I had when I was a student there, Orrin Cross. And so before that, though, they also had a great history of a marching band. There was a man named Clarence Fornwald that directed it all the way up into the 1960s, and they were great then. They won awards. And then he retired to go be a musician in Reno, and he played behind all the famous people like Sinatra and all that. And the band program kind of fell apart. And then Orrin came in the 70s, built it back up to what it was. And then, oddly enough, I wound up being the band director there later. For 6 years I did that, straight out of college. I kind of fell into it because they had hired another director and it wasn't working out. And somebody literally knocked on my door and said, "You should apply for the..." So I said, well, I really got my degree in performance. It's really not my dream to be a music teacher, but I do need a job, and I just moved back to town. Let me go interview just to get some experience. 6 years later, they had hired me. 6 years later, I'm directing, and I kept the tradition just like it was, and that I think the community liked that. But at that time, I was in my 20s, and I really, as I'm sure you understand what I'm saying, had the bug to be a performer, and that was my training, not education. And I think I did a good job, and the band won awards, and we always kept winning our parades and all that stuff. But it just wasn't feeling right to me, and so after 6 years, I said, I'm going to have to leave, and I pursued a performance career full-time, and I've been doing that ever since. I was about 13, 12 years ago, so. And I do teach part-time now at Los Medanos College as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What would you say the biggest important factor of performing is for you?
Wow, that's kind of evolved over the years, but being ready and on all the time, and being on time, and also now, especially that I'm singing, I'm realizing more and more, and I've heard performers say this, but now I get it. The music is more of a communication with the audience. It's not necessarily about all the notes. Of course, you want to hit the right notes, but it's more about you are expressing something, and if you can reach them, then you've done your job. And so, to me, the most important thing about performing is that communication between you and the audience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of feeding off of each other.
Yeah, I did a performance. Another highlight I just thought of was I was able to go to Budapest and to Austria and Germany this past October, and part of that trip I was performing, and part of that trip was I got to do my thing, the Alpha Rhythm Kings, on a ship going down the Danube and sing all this stuff. And one night we actually performed in a palace, the Budapest Palace there, and they invited me to come, and there was an orchestra, a Hungarian orchestra, and they said, you guys go and sit in and play with them. So I'm playing with the orchestra, and then we're going to do our songs. And then they said, well, Rob, you have your own band, you sing now. Would you want to do a song with the orchestra? I said, okay. So
Wow.
I got to go stand in this palace in front of this Hungarian orchestra with my trumpet. I sang a song, and everything went well. I didn't think, I was tired, we were jet lagged. I didn't think that I had technically performed at my best that day, right? But it was a great experience. And then somebody told me they heard some older ladies in the restroom saying, because it was the song Smile Though Your Heart Is Aching, Smile Even Though It's Breaking, Charlie Chaplin. It's a very sort of sad song. So somebody overheard some people in the restroom saying, wow, that I just wanted to cry during that song. And then when I heard that, I said, I did it.
You did it.
I did it, you know. And so that was the highlight to me, that I made somebody feel that emotion, you know.
Exactly. I think that is the biggest challenge, performing.
Yeah.
Going back to playing the trumpet and singing at the same time?
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody that you do in order to have that endurance?
Yeah, well, you know, the biggest thing is probably just doing something for a long time. You know, my son does karate, and, you know, they repeat the same thing every day. You start when you're young, and you do these things over and over again, and at first you can't do it. So for one, I would just say repetition over the years. Whatever happens in your body, it just kind of like gets muscle memory. But there are breathing exercises. When you learn music in school on a wind instrument, they're always talking to you about breathing, and it takes a while to figure it out. But as a singer too, you know, and sometimes it seems like gobbledygook, and you're like, what? And eventually you find what works. And so I just came to be able to make sure I was getting enough air all the time, and I'm just used to it. When we're at a kid's party, somebody needs a balloon blown up, they bring it to me.
My first instrument I learned how to play was the flute. And I used to get so annoyed because I'd try to, like, I'd be like Celine Dion, and then I would want to sing it, you know? I'd play a couple notes, and I'm like, I can't do this at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, it's a challenge. So keeping the timing, the endurance, and I mean, it's pretty good. So,
Thank you. Yeah, it is challenging, but yeah, and there may be some natural ability that for whatever reason I'm able to handle it better than some people might, but it's just experience, I think. Yeah.
Is that your I know you play the trumpet. Do you play any other instruments?
I do, but professionally for a living, when I'm performing, I'm mainly just playing the trumpet and now singing as well. I have done things over the years, little projects where I was playing keyboard or whatever, and I do write music a lot and record things at home where I play guitar or bass or piano and percussion. Yeah.
Okay, wow, so kind of all of it.
A little bit. I really can't play woodwinds at all, and I really can't play trombone. Yeah.
For me, playing the guitar and singing, I feel like it's kind of easier to find other people who can kind of accompany that, or always just jump in. It's more seen or more known. But being a trumpet player and singing, where did you go after high school? What were you like? Okay, you know, could you get a bunch of gigs? What was that like? Was the band formation easy? I know you went to college and everything, but what would you say?
Yeah, it is. I was telling my son, because he plays piano, and I told him he might have an easier time finding work, because most bands will have a guitar or a keyboard, and you can play guitar or piano and sing along with it, and you can play by yourself. You can play at Nordstrom's or whatever. So yeah, it is sometimes a challenge, but when you play these kind of instruments, you go on a different path, so you have a whole different tradition. So one option for people is to go into the orchestral route and look for a symphony job, and if you can get in a good symphony, they pay really well. But if you go into popular music, it's good to kind of go through a jazz way, because you meet a lot of horn players in jazz. So advice for other musicians, for me, what I found is if you find any local big bands, because there are big bands, like there's some in the city, every place has where there's some good musicians that have a big band. Maybe it doesn't pay a lot. Sometimes it's a rehearsal band, like they play once a week on a Monday somewhere, and everybody takes home $40 or whatever. And you get in there and you meet other horn players. And from that, then those horn players will be in a wedding band, because the wedding bands have horns, you know, and they're doing like cover tunes. Or who knows, salsa, whatever. And so you network with other horn players. And if you're good, they'll keep your number when they need a sub. And that is the best way, I think. So I would recommend for all horn players that want to get into popular music, do the jazz thing, so where you can read music enough, you can improvise a little, and show up to try to be involved in larger ensembles with other horn players and network that way. And then you'd be surprised, there's work out there, but it is a select few. Like, I'm like part of a circle of musicians now in the Bay Area where, I mean, there really might be maybe 20 trumpet players that do everything pretty much, you know, it seems like. In the popular music realm. And then being a singing trumpet player, that's really rare.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I decided I was going to try it, because there's only been like 4 or 5 famous singing trumpet players, and so I thought, well, at least it's not a burnout concept. Maybe I'll bring it back, you know.
It's cool. Yeah. It's actually really fun to watch as well. So
good.
I like it.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Thanks.
Are you ready to jam, Rob?
Sure.
All right, so Rob's going to do a little excerpt of When You're Smiling.
Sure.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay. Now, of course, normally I have a whole band behind me, so I'll do a little solo for you. When you're smiling, whoa, that whole world smiles with you. And when you're laughing, oh, when you're laughing, you know that sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, oh, you bring on the rain. Stop that sighing, get happy again. When you're smiling, keep on smiling, and the whole world smiles with you. When you're crying, whoa, you bring on the rain. You better stop that sighing, and you better get happy again. When you're smiling, keep on smiling, and the whole world smiles. Yes, that whole world smiles, and the whole world smiles with you.
Oh my gosh.
So you have to imagine the band behind me. But
Oh, I love it so much. It's so awesome.
I'm sick. Okay.
All right, do you want to try to do one together?
Sure, let's do something from your style.
Okay,
yeah.
let's do it.
All right. Yeah.
I am an old woman named after my mother. My old man is another child that's grown old. If dreams were thunder, lightning was desire, this old house would have burned down a long time ago. Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing, Lord, I can hold on to. To believe in this living is just a hard way to go, yeah.
Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just giving me one thing, Lord, I can hold on to. To believe in this and living is just a hard way to go. Yeah. When they come to take you down, when they bring old wagon round, when they come to call on you and drag your whole body round, shake it, sugary. Shake it, sugary. Shake it, sugary.
Thanks so much. That was so
Something
much
like
fun.
that.
Yeah. I loved it.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching Music Around the Bay. My name is Allie Sealey. This has been an awesome guest, Rob Dehlinger, and we will be back again soon. So please like, subscribe, share the video. We'll see you soon.